Hey guys, so today I decided to do a voiceover instead of my typical just talking while drawing thing, just cuz I wanted to show more of the process in one video, so just in one whole take basically. So I ended up doing a voiceover over this. I decided I wanted to draw Kirishima from My Hero Academia again as a test to I was trying to do more detail in the eyes and shading for coloring, so this is just me attempting to do that. Right now I'm leaving like some whites for like the nose area because I will be using a darker skin tone to go over that and shade. Yeah, basically most of this stuff like the hair I tried to add more detail and stuff like that, but in general, I was going for more detailed look for the face. You'll notice I kind of didn't do my typical way of drawing noses, which is like a line, like a curved line going upwards and then like nostrils. Instead, I did two nostrils, but they're kind of pointing downwards, so that way it looks like a nose rather than me just putting like a curved line on top of it. So yeah, so I don't really like pointy noses anymore, like the L shape, which is okay for people who typically draw anime, but I kind of want a little bit more realism with it, so I ended up doing that. Here I'm just like coloring in his arm. You'll notice like I sped it up a bit, so some of the parts are a bit choppy when it comes to the video. Sometimes I pause for too long when doing something and stuff like that, so I try to edit that a bit. Right now I'm just coloring his entire arm. I only put one of his arms up because I wanted to try like more, I wanted to show like the chest area more just for muscle drawing. I like learning how to draw muscles a lot, so that's just one of the things. So here I am shading in with these this darker skin color. Sorry, my mind went blank. But basically, this is the same color that I usually use for shading. I'm just trying to shade in a different way. So you'll notice the nose, I shaded it a bit differently, so that way it looks like it's going downwards. So there's kind of like a line of action for the nose. For the eyes, I didn't really do my typical huge shading that I normally do, and I added some shading on the top too. So I did like a smaller shading around the eyes, so that way it's not like, so that way it's more closer to the eyes. For the neck, you'll notice like I actually put more shading into it. I kind of wanted to, my friend sent me this video of an artist that was drawing something on Instagram, and she drew like Bakugo, and she added a lot of shading to the neck area, so I kind of wanted to try that. I would say I'm not super good at it, but I did try my best to add as much shading as I could. For the hands, I wasn't really sure how much shading to add, but I did what like I typically would, and then I added a bit more, so that way it looks like this stuff is overlapping, like the knuckles and everything. And then this is just me shading the arm. I added a bit more shading than I usually would, but I think that's good, so that way it looks a bit more like it pops out more like the features. Here I am finding markers. I used a little bit of pink on the nose and the eyes for blush, and I tried to do like lips. I normally do lips. I know this is like a pretty bright pink for a guy, but I did go over with like the tan color afterwards just to make it a bit muted and a bit more skin tone colored. Yeah, that's basically just what I did. For the mouth, I just made it pink, like, inside. I made his teeth a bit more, I don't know, a bit more detailed than I usually draw his teeth. I just wanted to do more detailed teeth as well, just to fit the whole overall aesthetic. So you'll see I'll just color it in, like, different shades of pink because like the flesh color of like the tongue and stuff like that. This is just me trying to find markers as I go along. So I'm now coloring in the hair. I saw a tutorial. Someone was doing like a tutorial on how to color in anime hair. They were like, oh, do it section by section. I normally just do the whole thing, but this time I didn't. Like, I colored the whole thing, but this time I was a bit more careful. Like, I took my time in terms of like jotting each section. So you'll notice like I'm coloring it a bit slower than I don't really show me coloring the hair that much, but when I color hair, I typically just color the whole thing. And but recently I've been a little bit more careful trying to show the the different details of the hair. I'll try to do it section by section, because when the marker actually dries on the paper, you can see it a little bit, so that way you can actually put different colors on top, and you'll see the outline of like each part of the hair. On paper, on the video, it's kind of hard to tell that though, but you can you can kind of see where his spikes are on the top of his forehead and stuff like that. So his main forehead spikes. I really like drawing Kirishima's hair because I kind of memorized how it slightly looks, like the overall aesthetic of it. So drawing it, I didn't need a reference, but I just took out a reference in case, because I really wanted to make the hair flow. I was trying to do like more strands on his hair, but of course that was a bit difficult. Sorry. But yeah, so I tried to add a bit more strands to like the two spikes on his hair that look like horns. I tried to make like more strands, but there wasn't much I could do because his hairstyle isn't really realistic. So to make it look realistic with strands is a bit difficult, I would say. It's not super easy. Here I am just coloring in the eye. So this is the outer part of the eye, so it's gonna be the light color first, and then when I start shading the hair with darker colors, you're gonna see that I'm going to actually be using the same shades I shade the hair for the eyes. This is me trying to open a marker. If you didn't notice, like that huge long pause, I was just trying to open the marker. It was a bit difficult. So yeah, so right now I'm just shading in the hair. So it's just going along anything that I have anything that I have drawn before. The overall thing that I was doing was like just going along the spikes at the end, like the tips of the hair, so that way it gave it a little bit more of a pop to it. Here I was actually gonna try a new technique that was like you leave some whites for the paper and the highlights for the highlights, so some people don't color in certain sections of the hair, so the paper just sticks through and it's like a highlight to make the hair shiny. I forgot because my brother I told him I was doing a voiceover, so he started talking to me, and I got so distracted because he was just goofing off, so I forgot that. I'm a bit disappointed that I forgot that because it was supposed to be an important part for the hair, but it looks fine. This shading that I'm using, the technique for not for the eyes, but for the actual hair itself, that's typically what I do. For the eyes, I kind of tried something new where I did the outer rim to be the lightest color, the inner rim is the inner part is darker, and then the darkest is like this small area in the center of the eye. So you'll see that after I'm done this. So what I'm doing is I'm just going over where the hair is overlapping itself. So all the lines that I drew are basically getting shaded into a darker red, so you can tell the difference of like the different spikes, like with what's overlapping what. and what's not connected. I also go over like some of these lines like on top and stuff like that, so that way it looks like there's some splits between the hair. And yeah, this is my tiny circle in the eye. This part, yeah, so I outlined the circle on the eye. I kind of put the pupil a little bit lower than I usually do, and I usually like to do, but that's okay. And then I added the whites of the eyes. And that's complete. So now I'm coloring in this green part. So he's in his UA uniform. So I basically did the long sleeve uniform and I rolled up his sleeves because I think that's something, it matches his aesthetic more. Typically he wears like they wear like the jackets on top, but for this I just ended up doing the white uniform only. And then I'm like coloring in the buttons on top of the shoulders too. Basically finding the markers to use. This is kind of a long pause, but basically I was finding the marker to use. I ended up going for the tie first to color it in because it was red. I try not to make it super similar colors to the hair, but there's only so much reds I have in my marker case, so it ended up being this red that I chose, and then I shaded it afterwards, so you'll notice I just go over with a darker red. This dark red I didn't use for his hair, so that way it looks a bit different. Here's me trying to shade more than I usually do. For his shirt, I ended up going with a light gray. I usually use this for white or shading white or making a silver color, so I ended up just going with this. I was gonna go for like a darker gray just to like there's like another gray that I use for fabric whites too, but I ended up not using that because it was like an off gray, so this one I just ended up using this. So I'm just shading in parts of the sleeve. And I still kind of kept the shirt a bit skin tight in terms of aesthetics, so you'll notice like the overall, like the chest area, like the abs, I still kept it in. I ended up just I ended up shading it, but I didn't outline. I typically outline the abs and stuff, but I decided not to just because I thought it would be better if I didn't outline it. Because sometimes when I outline it, it looks a bit too blocky, like it's set in place. So, because this is shirt, I didn't want it to be too much like that anymore. So, this is me basically outlining the whole thing. So this is where you'll see like the different strands of hair that I've added, like the lines and stuff. I usually don't add that many lines to hair, but this time for this style that I'm trying to practice, I literally just added more strands than I usually do. Because I think I want the hair to look more detailed when it comes to drawing, so this is me adding more stuff to it. So now I'm outlining the face. Again, I won't be outlining all around the inside, all around like the outside part. It's more so just the inner part like I usually do. Before in the past, I would just outline everything. And outlining everything looks really nice, but for this time, I really wanted do keep what I did in my other style, which is just not have an outline from the outside. There's more lines that I added to the top of his eye just for like wrinkles and stuff. And also you'll notice the bottom part of the eye is like a longer, so that way it almost looks like a connected like eye, but it's not completely there because I still wanted to keep the anime aesthetic. And then now I'm outlining his mouth. You'll see how much pointier his teeth look. It was kind of scary when I drew it at first because it was like way too pointy, and the way I was doing it was like separate teeth, so that way it looked a bit more, I guess you could say, realistic. But yeah, and then this is me outlining his neck and his collarbone. I seem to always like drawing collarbones. It must just be because I'm fascinated about drawing so much detail in one small area, so it was kind of, I guess, I like drawing collarbones a lot. So typically he doesn't wear his outfit like this. I would say the aesthetic I drew his outfit is more Bakugo, because Bakugo wears his outfit, like his uniform is less buttoned on the neck area, as for Kirishima is more of the tidy character. He like keeps everything like just neat. But Bakugo doesn't wear a tie, so I definitely gave Kirishima a tie just because it matches his overall aesthetic. It's just his shirt should have been tighter on the neck, but I don't know. That's just me with the collarbones and stuff. I just draw them. Yeah, certain details I'll like keep in when I'm drawing people, and then I'll end up making the clothing look a certain way or a certain aesthetic, so that way you can see certain parts like that. I'm almost done outlining, and you'll notice I didn't align the abs at all. But yeah, so if you want to see the process work, it will be in the description box below. All the pictures will be posted. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye!